Hello, everyone. Welcome to Satsang with G. I'm so glad you're here. I'll start kind of slowly as people begin to arrive. There's a lot of technology that has to take place before I even know that I'm broadcasting. Oftentimes I'll sit here staring into space thinking I'm not, and in fact, I am. And so I'm really try to be patient with how I get started. So please, by all means, oh, where's the chat here? No, chat's there. Waiting for the chat to come up. A lot of technology on my side here that has to start working before, there we are. The chat is beginning to show up. And hello, everyone. Hold on. Let me turn off the sound. Yeah, I gotta mute the sound, otherwise I hear it. Oops. Let's just do it like this. There we go. Degong is here from California, Remington. Where you live, Remington? Soren is in Ohio. We have Brian in Virginia. Jill from outside of Boston. Norfolk, UK for Pam. Emiliano from Sweden. Remington is in Michigan. Very good. Used to go to Michigan when I was a teenager. Johanna is from Chapala, Mexico. My international community, as you guys begin to join, and there's actually more here that aren't telling me where they're from. Nerdin is from Hawaii. Osiris here, visiting family in Hawaii, where Cyrus is from, a long-term student. Ivan is from Bulgaria. Wonderful, 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 wonderful. I will continue to call out names as people join, so I give shout outs to all the appropriate people. As you can tell, I'm not in the same place today. I'm actually at my son's house in Seattle, Washington, visiting my son and granddaughter and also my sister, who's been putting me to work doing a lot of things. Hazel from the UK. Hi, Hazel. Welcome. Sarah from France. Joe, so good to see you all. So welcome to Satsang. Satsang is an opportunity to take a nice time out from all of your normal activities and join in on learning what it's like to be yourself. That's really what Satsang is about. When you say discovering who you really are, it's not an idea. It's not a concept we come up with. It's not a different view that we can hold of ourselves. It's actually the absence of all views, which is what direct experience is. Hello to Luca. Is that right? Yeah, Luca from Slovenia. Hi. Started today with IR level 1. Wonderful. Hi, Luca. Marlene is in Alamo, Texas. Remington. I'll get to your question in a minute. Judy's here from Florida. Toby, Miss Toby from Bristol, UK. Hi, everybody. So like I said, we're not after a better version of ourselves. That's personal development. That's self-help. And nothing wrong with it. At MasterHEART Institute, I teach things about self-help, teach various kinds of techniques of meditation and EFT, which is one of my favorites. But that's not what it's about. Those are means to the end. Oh, Manolo from Costa Rica. I don't think I've seen you here before, Manolo. Hello. Those are means to an end. And in Satsang, I'm talking about the direct path. There's an indirect path, which they call the smaller vehicle is called in Buddhism, and Advaita referred to as the Great River. And then there's the direct path. And the direct path is the straight and narrow gate. It's called the Great Vehicle in the Buddhist tradition. And it is a direct seeing of who you are. This is also the Zen approach, which is the sudden awakening. And all awakening is finally seeing yourself through unfiltered eyes, seeing yourself without a story, without a concept. And it's something we actually experience all the time. I love to use the example of everybody having those moments. I call it the power of wow. Everybody's had those moments when something has just caught your attention, taken your breath away, and it's like time stops. You're suddenly totally present. It can be a little child laughing. It can be a flower you see that you didn't notice before. Maybe these guys behind me. It can be a sunset. It can be, I remember driving through the mountains for the first time. I grew up in Illinois. There aren't any, right? And the first time I actually drove through mountains, I was like, every time I go around a curve, there was this new vista that I'd never, ever seen before. And it just took my breath away. In that moment, you are totally present. The reason that moment feels so good and is so powerful is because for a split second, maybe a little bit longer, the story of you is gone and you are pure experience. You are 100% present. That's why it feels good. That's why it feels so enriching. Now, usually a few moments after we have an experience like that, the mind will kick back in again and start talking about it and narrating it. It'll name the flower. It'll start comparing it with other sunrises you've seen and other vistas. That's okay. That's what the mind does. I mean, if it doesn't do that, we can't sit here and have a conversation. Right? That's what language is built on and all of that. But the experience itself is what has all the juice in it. It's what has all the charge in it, right? It's not our story about it. It's not our remembering of it. It's not the pictures we took, right? Or the selfies we took at the, standing in front of the Grand Canyon or something. Those are all meaningless, really. They fade very quickly. Nobody cares and nobody looks at it. You post it on Facebook and nobody cares anyway. The experience itself. And it's really significant to pay attention to the experience because that's where life is. That's where the juice is. And when I talk about discovering who you are, that's what I'm talking about. That's why people talk about having an awakening experience, and it's quite an emotional blast. They'll cry, they'll laugh, they'll do both at the same time. There'll be this enormous feeling of freedom because you're finally seeing yourself without a story, without a narrative, without a past, without a future, just this moment. And that is what freedom is. Now, what I always invite people to do in all of my classes and even on Satsang is to experience that now. Let's not turn this into a special event that's going to happen at some point that you have to buy expensive tickets to. Let's begin to realize that if all I'm doing is seeing myself as I actually am, it means me as I actually am is always here. We just don't see it. It's not like you suddenly become this extraordinary being that for a minute and then lose it. It only means that for a moment, your habits of thought and reaction are set aside, are in abeyance, so that you can experience yourself as you actually are all the time. Are you following that? This is really important because a lot of people think you're going to become enlightened. You're going to become the enlightened being, become the sage. And it's a big mistake. It turns awakening into an experience, just another experience you have. You might as well take a selfie and post it on Facebook because it's just another thing. The significance of it is that it is a seeing of yourself unfiltered, unbuffered, without a story. Oh, let's see. Mr. Mann, hi, my friend from Norway. Hello, Mr. Mann. Ista Oska Masi, Chwe Etani. It's a Kapwa traditional greeting. I'm not familiar with what that is. It sounds like some kind of a native Aboriginal group, but it's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for that. The other son says hello. Hello, other son. Very good. Very good. So you're following that? The thing is that, when you notice a flower and there's suddenly this, it's a very ordinary experience. The flower's been there the whole time, as have you. But in a moment, there's a connection. There's an intimacy that takes place. There's a direct experience. This is all that's meant when you hear about the direct path, or the path of Zen, or the path of sudden enlightenment. It's a direct, unfiltered experience. It's not something that you arrive at over time. Bill says, the unfiltered, unbuffered self. Lovely, GP. Thank you, Bill. So it's not something you arrive at over time. There are practices for that. And I spent a lot of my life in practices like that. And they do prepare the character. And it is kind of a balance, because I have found that a lot of people trying to go for the enlightenment really have not had the maturing of character required to really understand what's necessary. But it isn't really a requirement. It can happen like that. And of course, it always does, because the moment you see yourself, the seeing is direct. It's instantaneous. And you are seeing what is. And most importantly, you are what is seeing. You are seeing yourself. That is, consciousness is beholding itself as consciousness and not as a person. See what people have commented on. Remington says, I've had my initial awakening and it's permeating me. It happened roughly 4 years ago, but I didn't know what it was. What is the second awakening? Don't think of awakening as a moment, as an experience in time. You, in what we call the awakening experience, saw yourself unfiltered for however long it lasts, and it permeates. I mean, once something seen, it can't be unseen. Now, the sense of identity, the person, the mind, will come back. It does for pretty much everybody, and we can often get lost in that. And then the mind then tries to turn awakening into an experience that you had, meaning you as a person had an awakening experience. But in fact, the awakening experience is there's no person. You're not there. That is, the ideas you have about yourself aren't there, and you experience yourself directly, and that's what the feeling is. Can there be a second awakening? If you look at it from the point of view of an experience, you can have 3, 5, 10, as many as you like. You can go on and on and on, dozens, right? So let's really hone in on what the awakening is. You become awake to what has always been. That is, consciousness, which has identified itself with a person, recognizes that the person is not what it is, and thus experiences itself as itself. Consciousness awakening to its true nature as consciousness, not somebody having an experience of awakening. In the awakening, there's no person left. The you think you are is gone. That is the actual awakening. That is the death of the person, the resurrection of the self, you might say. That's the Christian metaphors for it. The thing I constantly pointing the attention back to is that the person you think you are is a construct of the mind and not actually who you are. But this is so ingrained in us. It is so much in our language, in our figures of speech, in our interactions with one another, and in our self-image, that we think that this person who we are is going to wake up. And it's not true. The guy in the dream doesn't wake up. The guy on TV can't change the channels. You see that the guy in the dream doesn't have a real, substantive, objective existence. The one dreaming does. And so I can say with certainty that you don't know who you are. If you are identified with the person, you don't know who you are. Consciousness is still dreaming itself to be a person. I'm really trying to get you back to the experience of being conscious, the experience of being aware, because that is where the real meat is. And in the experience of being aware, it's not somebody who's aware, right? Just look for yourself. Look for yourself right now. You are aware of my voice, right? Does it require a person to be aware of my voice? Matter of fact, you have ideas about the consciousness that is aware of my voice. But those ideas aren't necessary for you to be aware of it, are you? Are they? There's just this awareness. Is the awareness a person? It's a really significant question. This sense of being aware, is it a person or is it just itself, pure awareness? It is the question, who am I? You know that you are aware, right? Anybody here not know they're aware? Aware of not knowing you're aware? Show of hands. Anybody, right? No, of course not. You can't be. You are aware of my voice. You're aware of the room you're in. You are aware of everything. So that awareness, right? Is it somebody else or is it you? That's you, isn't it? Whatever that is, that's you. That's the true I. The I is what's hearing me. That is the true I. So the question, the only question, the most direct question to get to the reality of your being is, what is that? Whatever that is what I am. And of course, that's the question we're trying to answer. We're not really trying to answer, how do I have a better life? That can come later. What kind of thing do I need to do? What's my purpose? All of that. That all comes later, because all of that flows out of knowing who you are, right? If you don't know who you are, you have no idea what your purpose is going to be, right? Everything starts from there. So we start with what we know, not the ideas we have about ourselves, not what we've been told, not what we've said we're supposed to be, not any kind of box we got put in, not our conditioning, not our memories, not our associations, not our past, not our future. None of that is aware, is it? That's all stuff you're aware of. Whatever you are is that. I am that. You can be absolutely certain. Is there any doubt that you are, you're something else, not that which is aware? If that's the case, well, then what's that, right? Wherever that stops, wherever that line stops, you're there, right? Now, nobody else. What is that? That's the only question I'm asking. The only question I'm putting forth to us. What is that? While you sit on that, Ista says, pronounced Ista Oshka Mashi. Ooh, beautiful. Ishka Oshka Mashi. Greetings from Louisiana. Hello. Ishta, Ishta Oshka Mashi. Beautiful. Thank you, Ishta. Ishta, yeah. Tamaz, hi from Poland. Hello. Bill Kaig asks, are you saying that if we did not have any of our senses, i.e. ears, eyes, we as awareness are still able to see and hear? Yes. You have eyes. You do not see because you have eyes and ears. You have eyes and ears because you see. Awareness, consciousness, is the actual source and experiencer of what we have wrongly designated our senses. We call them our senses. We see them as an attribute of the body. If you look close, really close, you'll see you are aware of sensations, sight, touch, hearing, taste, smell. And that's all you're aware of. I know sight. I believe my sight has to do with the body, but I've never actually seen a body. I only know sight and the objects of sight. There's nothing in sight. This is very powerful if you want to pursue this. There's nothing in what you see that tells you conclusively that what you're looking at exists independently of you looking. Like a dream at night. We believe that what we're experiencing is objective, but in fact, it's totally subjective. This was actually the first awakening I had at 17 years old when I saw this. I could not determine for sure whether or not what I was seeing existed independently of me. I searched and searched. I could find no concrete proof, and it left this incredibly beautiful doubt within me that eventually flowered. So we assume that there's an eye or a hand or an ear that is perceiving something other than itself. But if you look at the actual experience of seeing, there's no evidence for that. Seeing and what is seen are a single, a unified experience. And you cannot have one without the other. What I do know, what is absolutely consistent, which has never changed and has never varied, is the fact that I am aware of it. That is like ground. And I can't, looking closely at that, I can find no origin for the awareness. I cannot find something causing this awareness to be. I imagine it is. I imagine it's a body and a brain and functioning of matter and emergent properties and all of that kind of stuff. So I imagine that. But that's all after the fact. When I look at the experience itself, I see no evidence of it. I see, all I know is this absolutely unchanging, constant, effortless, irreversible, immovable, unknowable awareness. That's the absolute reality of what I experience. And of course, I experiencing it am that awareness. I'm aware of being aware, as much of a reversion that sounds like. I'm aware of being aware, but not as an object. I'm not standing aside from awareness looking at it. I'm being aware of being aware by being the awareness itself, and everything happens within that. Let's see if Bill had a response to that. Okay. Ista says, awareness can come through any number of avenues. Well, awareness, no. I would invite you to look more closely at that. My experience of awareness is singular, not different kinds of awarenesses. Many different kinds of experiences, many different shades and qualities of experience. And some really wonderful and blissful and pleasurable, and some very painful and grievous and undesirable. Right? The entire range of what I'm aware of, but the actual experience of the awareness, I have never ever seen it vary. It's always the same. What is aware of a constant kaleidoscope of change, the awareness itself changeless. Ivan says, when you talk about awareness and I try to experience it, a sharp feeling close to pain is felt between my eyebrows and my attention goes there. It's not a single event, it's repeating constantly. Okay, good. Just allow that pain to be there, right? Don't focus your attention on trying to see it, right? Because it will be painful because you can't see what's looking. Awareness is not an object that you can point at and say, there it is. And so you're trying to see something when in fact you're looking from it. You are aware of the pain, right? Well, that's the awareness. Right now, it's aware of pain. It's aware of the mind trying to locate it. It's aware of the search for itself. All of that is happening in the awareness. And it's a beautiful question. Muji asks it all the time, and it just brought me to my knees. Can the perceiver, can the awareness perceive itself? If so, then it's some kind of an object, and I have to ask, well, what's perceiving it? And if not, then what is it that's perceiving? It's not perceivable, which means it's not an object, right? So the mind can't conceive it. It's not a form. It doesn't exist in space and time. It has no place. It has no boundaries. It has no locality. It is not a thing. It is simply awareness. It is not something that is aware. It is awareness. And when I say it, the common name for it is I. Because are you not the one who is aware? Now, without the one who is aware, I am awareness, and I cannot perceive myself because there's nothing to perceive. I can only be myself. Lexi says, yet even with this knowing, we must still live in a world of objects, limits, frustrations. If it is all being knowing itself, are all of the limits on being also being itself? Why the struggle? Thank you for that question. Actually, I just finished doing the video for week 4 of the immersion class on manifestation that I've been doing. And I've just been going through this. So I'm well prepared. I'm well prepared for this class. Start with just allowing yourself to feel what you're feeling in this moment. With no resistance. Just allow everything to be as it is. Right? This is very, very, very powerful. Should say, I'm living in a world of objects, limits, frustrations. Right? Why are all these things here? Why am I having the experience that I'm having? It's a great question. But what I want you to do before we go into answering that question is, can you allow yourself to be with the world of objects, limits, and frustrations? Can you simply let that be here? And notice that the sense of the objects, the limits, and the frustrations are just feelings you're having, right? They're feelings running through the system. And just let those feelings be there. Just allow whatever's there to be there. And now notice that there's a feeling, and then there's thoughts and ideas and stories about the feeling. There's a feeling there, and then there's the idea of, I'm in a world of objects, I'm limited, I'm frustrated. There's a feeling, and then I'm frustrated. And an entire story about why I'm frustrated in this world of objects I live in. If it's all just being knowing itself, why all the struggle? Okay. In the feeling itself, that's just running through the system, maybe pleasant, maybe unpleasant, is there a struggle with that? Or is the struggle you trying to resist the feeling? What happens if you don't resist it? You end the conflict with it. What happens? And just notice. Make it more intense for a second. It may just go away. It may move. Right? But just be there with it for a second. I mean, really, do everything you can to offer no resistance whatsoever. Okay, come. Let it come. 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 And notice what starts to happen. You're going to find that the limits and frustration are not in the feelings. They are not in reality. They are not in the experience. They are all your mind's interpretation resisting what is. And of course, the mind resists what is because it believes the story about what is. Oh, this world of objects, and it's limiting me, and I'm stuck. None of that's true. It's an idea that your mind has. And if you reduce it just to the feeling that you're having, and all the resistance goes away, you'll find so do the limits, so do the frustrations. There's no struggle. It takes two to have a conflict, right? If you don't fight, there's no war. There's no struggle if you just go. You have to resist. Push back, push back. If you do this, where does it go? Right through you. And you find it has no staying power of its own. Does that help, Lexi? Beautiful question. So important question. Oh my goodness. The entire experience of human misery and suffering is in that question. When you can truly be with what is, not the story about what is, but what is actually here, you will find total freedom from suffering. And of course, that's peace and happiness and fun. Johanna says, the person can never wake up. I am pure awareness. Thank you, Bill and GP. That is true. My mind, if that is true, my mind is blown and I have no more questions. Let it be blown and let there be an end to questions. Yeah. You can stop struggling to wake up because the you think you are is never going to wake up, and who you actually are was never asleep. That awareness is even aware of the one who's trying to wake up, isn't it? That awareness is what you are. That is who you are. That's what Jesus meant when he said, these works show they do also because I go unto my Father. That's what he was referring to. The sense of I returns back to the I am, returns to the pure awareness. And then you see the person you thought you were, which you've been really working on hard, probably, years of meditation and personal development or spiritual practice, really trying to improve this person. You realize this person never existed. You've been giving medicine to a ghost. Boom. This is the direct path. Boom. It's gone. There's nobody left. Now, forewarned is forearmed. The habit of thinking of yourself as a person will still be there. It's going to last. It's going to keep going for a while. I'm really trying to put this into you so deeply that you won't be fooled by it any longer. Because it's just a habit. The record's going to still play. The robot's going to is still going to keep doing his robot thing. And it will come with feeling. And it will come like severe. It'll come like, yeah, we got to be afraid. Ah! Not a problem. Just let it go right through you. That's the beautiful practice of allowing. Just let it move through you. It isn't who you are. And you can step back to this place and go, oh, all of this is happening in front of awareness. I'm being invited to identify with all of this activity that's going on out here, but I'm aware of it. Since I'm aware of it, it's not me. It's just all the stuff going on in my nervous system. I'm like, fine, let it go. Come, do your thing. Very, very powerful. SS. My mind seems to connect past to future, but it's all untrue because I see what I thought I was scared of in the future never actually happens. Yes. Problem is the mind can't be controlled in all its nonsense. No, it can't. You can't control the mind. Muji once said, trying to control the mind is like trying to stop the wind dressed as a kite. But the beauty is you don't have to. Right? The idea that I need to stop the mind is the mind. That is the person trying to control their mind because they think if they get this state of a quiet mind, then they're going to be awakened. Notice there's the sense of being a person under there, and you're not that. You don't need to control the mind any more than you need to control the sun or the wind or the rain. You know, to get enlightened, it doesn't stop raining, right? You just, there's no resistance to the rain. Okay, let it talk. And of course, what happens is when you don't care about controlling it anymore, you just let it do whatever it's going to do. Yeah, you'll get distracted and you'll come back, there it was again, right? But the less importance it has for you, the less energy you give it, the less power it has, and you end up finding that it's completely under control. It actually becomes quite well behaved. It becomes a servant. But you didn't control it. You didn't make it do it. You didn't force it or discipline it. You know, you didn't sit on your butt for 30 years trying to get into samadhi. You just recognize, oh, of course, it's nature. My heart's not going to stop. My eyes aren't going to stop blinking. I'm enlightened, so now I never blink. Right? When we see it as it actually is, which is simply another function of nature, even the mind and all of its antics become insignificant. It's only us believing the story that makes it, that turns it into suffering. The activity of the mind has no inherent suffering in it. It's me believing that I am that. That is, I'm believing that I am this person. But I'm looking at the person. I'm looking at all these qualities that I have identified as a person. I realize, wait a minute, there's no person there. There's just a bunch of qualities, and I invented a person, projected it on those qualities. Well, who am I? Well, I'm the awareness that's looking at them. I don't have a form at all. I'm not a person. I'm not in the dream. I've never been in the dream. I'm not the guy on TV. And at this point, you don't have to try to control the mind. You have to try to create a different story. You don't need to do self-improvement. There's no self to improve. And the true self doesn't need any improving. It's already absolutely perfect, still, infinitely intelligent, infinitely peaceful. Klesu says, hi. Hi, Klesu. Ishta says, or perhaps awareness is on the receiving end of all experience. Yes. Yes. It is the one who has the experience. Are you not having the experience of watching me right now and listening? And are you not having the experience of the thoughts and feelings that are going through you as this is going on? And are you not aware of your fingers typing the question? Are you not aware of the question as it comes to you? Yeah, it's all being, every bit of experience is registering in this one place. What is that one place? You. That is the awareness. And again, the mind will say, oh, the awareness, the awareness, the awakened awareness. Yeah, there it is. Oh, there it is. No, no, no. I much prefer to use the street name for awareness, and that is I, me, right? It's Ishta, right? It's not, it's not the sage. It's not the, it's not Nisargadatta. It's not Buddha. It's me. It's you. It's I. It's Ishta. That is the common name for the universal awareness, and it doesn't matter. It has 1,000 different names. It has a gazillion names. It's Lexi. It's Johanna. It's SS. It's Klesu. It's Ishta. It's GP. It has a million names. So what? I go by G. I go by GP. I go by Gregory. I go by Dad. I go Dude. I go G Money. So right? They're all me. They're all the awareness. So that's the way to see it. You are at the receiving end of all experiences, aren't you? And awareness is at the receiving end. You are the awareness. Is there any other conclusion you can draw? Who's registering the experience? I am. Who's that? Pure awareness. Pure awareness isn't a form. It's not an object. You're not the body. You're not a thing. You are no thing. You just are. Pure being. Pure Sat Chit Ananda. Not as something. You are the being of all being. The beingness within everything that is. So the beingness of a car, the beingness of a frog, the beingness of this shirt, beingness of the computer you're watching this on, all that same beingness, and that is what you are. Pam asks, is what you refer to as awareness the same as Eckhart Tolle calls presence? Absolutely. Absolutely the same. Yes. Do you feel present? You feel you are present? Right? Again, when we think of me as somebody who is present, I've created the duality, myself, an object that is present. And that's why he uses the word presence, because it's not an object. You're just presence. You are not a thing that is present. You are the presence. Right? You don't need to be a thing to be present. And that's what the mind can't grasp. The mind cannot grasp presence without a form. The mind is completely a manipulator of symbols and forms. So it cannot, there's no concept you can form of yourself that isn't an object, which is why this gets so difficult, because we're so used to thinking about ourselves rather than being ourselves. The experience of being doesn't require your mind, does it? That's presence. Just presence, not an object that is presence, but just presence that is no object. And you'll hear Eckhart talk all the time about being free from identification with form. Your mind thinks of you as this body, but that's just a thought. And you are the one who is aware of thoughts, which means you're not a thought. You're not, somebody's not thinking you. Thoughts are appearing to you, and they can't exist separate from you. But thoughts come and go. There's gaps between thoughts. So you're clearly here, whether thoughts are here or not. Presence. You just are. You are simply what is. You are the what is. What am, if you like. SS says, and more I see everything happens without the control of me. Everything just happens. Absolutely. Even though the mind wants to claim it as control, but actually it's all spontaneously happening. Yes. There's no me to control it. The me is a construct of the mind. You also call it ego, if you like. Really attached to it. Ego is a good word for it. But it's completely a fabrication of the mind. It's an idea that we've believed, oh, there's this me, and it's an object in the mind. And we've just really been suckered into thinking that's who you are. That is the fall, right? I believe myself to be this, right? But who's believing? There was something there before the believing happened. There was something there before any of this conditioning took place. There was something there before this idea of who you were got impressed upon you. You were there already. So the idea that I'm controlling events is simply another illusion of the mind. As you've heard me use the example of the circus where the trapeze artists are doing these death-defying acts. The crowd comes to its feet with applause, and the clowns run out and take the bow. That's the mind. That's the ego. Didn't do a thing. And please don't turn this into some kind of an abstract thing, like, oh, there's no, everything is just happening. You can look for yourself. Just look, any thought you have, trace it to the beginning and see if you can find yourself creating it or controlling it. And you go, oh, I didn't. It just happened. Every thought just happened. Every action you take starts with some kind of thought and impulse, and you trace it to the beginning and you'll find it just happened. I didn't create it. I'm not controlling it. Just everyday conversations you have with a friend. You're not controlling every word, right? You're not planning in advance what you're going to say. It's spontaneously going back and forth. Sometimes it's, it's really close and tender. Sometimes it's hysterically funny. And, sometimes it's silly, right? You're not controlling any of it. Anybody here know what their next thought's going to be? Yeah. The mind isn't like that. We're all habituated into wanting to control things. I mean, look at our world, hold each other at gunpoint to try to control each other. It's a total illusion. Excuse me, get some water. It's total, there is no control. And when you see that there's actually nobody there to control, you realize that the sense of control is the mind trying to create a person. As a matter of fact, the function of the seeking of control is the ego. The functioning of the seeking of control, which is really just an aspect of the defense mechanism, when seen just as a function of the nervous system, is not a big deal. Oh, okay. I want to be safe. I'm going to try to, I want to control. And it comes and goes, right? Not a big deal. The moment I identify with somebody who wants to control and has a vested interest in what's going to happen, and that's why I'm trying to control it, the ego comes into existence. I have now created a person that needs things to go in a certain way in order to feel safe and sound. So the letting go of the idea of control can be frightening until you realize that, first off, you never had it, and secondly, the universe is benevolent, that the nature of existence is love. But our fear of other that comes from that false sense of self makes us believe that the universe is malevolent and that pain and suffering are the nature of life. So we got to control things so it doesn't happen. But that's not the actual nature of life. The more you let go of control, the more you find everything is just perfect the way it is. And so, it's true that with the total awakening, you have the power to move mountains. Say to that mountain, be removed and be cast into the sea. But what also comes with awakening is the realization that the mountain's fine, just where it is. I have no problem with the mountain. No need to move it. In fact, I couldn't do a better job. Remington says, why is the root chakra associated with money and safety when the organ is used for procreation? Why is the sacral chakra associated with procreation when it's used for eating and instantaneous thinking? There's a bunch of different views of the chakras. The way I like to approach that kind of thing is just think of the chakras as the functioning. Forget about whether it's a first chakra thing, second chakra thing, third chakra thing. Forget the origin, right? That gets a little too heady. There is an energy in us that is seeking safety. That's true, right? Doesn't really matter whether it's first or second chakra, really. I teach it in the first, right? Matter of fact, I refer to the first chakra as the tribe, that tribal energy within us, right? And that the second chakra, because that and the first chakra, and that first chakra is like the base. It's the most basic. It's one. Everything stands, right? So everything standing there, everything that has to do with safety is going to be interpreted from that point of view, from the point of view of whether it's safe or not. And so, yeah, sex becomes simply about procreating the race. It's not about fun. It's not about pleasure. Not about love. It's about procreation. Money is just about being safe. Be the same as having food before, good crops, or good hunt or rain, right? It's just everything is interpreted through those eyes. So it's not like money lives there. It's just like when perceived strictly through the eyes of safety, the world looks in a particular way. And most of us have been habituated into looking through the eyes of safety. Even though we have an infinite range of perceptions available to us, we narrow it. Right? That's the real meaning of the chakras. It's not about trying to isolate things and money's here and why is this, right? The second chakra is associated with sex, but it's also associated with money, but it's a different kind, right? It's really more about freedom, about the juice of life, about being able to recognize my own abilities, about being able to know what I want and get it, right? So when we see money in that aspect, money isn't just about maintaining safety. Money is about having experience. It's about, right? It's about living and fun and enjoyment and learning and growth. And sex just isn't about procreation anymore. It's about sharing, and it's about pleasure, and it's about exploration, right? I mean, the hips is where we dance, right? I mean, all sorts of stuff goes on down there. And the lower dantian, which is also that in martial arts, is the power point. It's the place of balance. It's where everything kind of sits together. And you could take it all the way up the scale. Sex, when it comes to the heart, becomes intimacy and connection and oneness and closeness. And if any one of these perspectives becomes dominant, it limits the totality of our experience, because all of them can be present at the same time. A relationship can be intimate and pleasurable and fun and tantric and quite safe and stable at the same time, and quite intimate and open and loving. And I mean, all of these characteristics can be there simultaneously. So when you put them into a model like the chakras, it's useful for teaching purposes, but in practice, don't get stuck in the model. It's just a model. The map is not the territory, right? And notice what I was talking about wasn't limiting them to a certain place or a certain aspect. The function is undeniable. We all experience it. And so we can see the ways in which we can get stuck in a certain perception. When you get stuck in a perception is when the person gets created. I'm this, I'm not that. But if I'm not stuck in perception, I'm all of it. I can be a lover, I can be a father, I can be an intimate, I can be a close friend, I can be a disciplinarian, I can be an employer, I can be an employee. I can move through every different perspective at ease. And of course, that's the real meaning of life. The meaning that when Buddha used the term suffering, English, it's translated suffering. In Sanskrit, it's the word dukkha, and it refers to the hub of the wheel of a cart that has gotten out of true, so the wheel can't turn. It's stuck. Suffering equals stuck. And it's interesting because the cart, the wheel, is chakra. That is the Sanskrit word for wheel, is chakra. It gets stuck. I get stuck in a position. I get stuck in safety. I get stuck in pleasure seeking. I get stuck in altruism. It's all about others. If I get stuck anywhere, suffering occurs. When I'm able to flow fluidly, and every moment is asking for a different combination of these incredible qualities of life. But every moment, if I'm not stuck anywhere, every moment I enter in without an agenda. I literally show up as nobody in every situation and become whatever that situation needs. I am just the perfect jazz musician. I am just flowing with what's happening in the moment. Is that clear for you, Remington? That's my way of teaching the chakras, which I like. This thing starts scrolling by itself. It says, life is beautiful when that is realized. Everything is allowed to be as it is. Yes. And letting it be as it is lets you get further and further away from your story about what it is, which is where all the suffering is, and closer to what it really is. And what you find when you get there, what it really is you. It's all you. To quote Nisargadatta, my favorite quotes, to know that you are nothing is wisdom. It's just, I enter into the situation, I'm absolutely no one. To know that you are everything is love. And that is, I have every bit of energy available to me to create this moment that is the most beneficial and benevolent to everyone. That's love. And then he says, between these two, my life flows. They don't stop anywhere. Remington adds, how do I work on both to release limitations? You reconcile both of them. That's why I teach inner reconciliation. You recognize that this drive towards freedom and expression and fun and pleasure, and the drive toward all our drives and safety are by nature in contrast to one another, aren't they? They're doing this. If you take the pure position of safety, it won't let you do anything. It shuts everything down, right? As far as safety is concerned, throw you in a room and lock you in there, feed you when need be, and everything's okay. Keep you from everything. Need to reproduce? Okay, we'll bring you a mate for a minute, take him away, right? Have the baby, right? I mean, it's just this perfect, and from the point of view of safety, it's satisfied. Now, from the point of view of freedom, that's hell on earth. But if freedom is left to its own devices, it'll walk off the side of the building to have a 7-second experience of falling, right? So there's no perpetuity, right? The life of freedom is really magnificent, but really short. So how do we flow between the two? How do we reconcile these two and let both be powers? So the limitation is in insisting on one over the other. That's where the stuckness is. And for most on the spiritual path, you become so attached to freedom. I want my freedom, that safety has become an enemy. You've created a conflict that isn't real. It doesn't naturally exist. The natural organization of the energy that we call the chakras is to flow. The wheels just turn. They don't get in the way of each other, right? You got 4 wheels on a car, you got 18 on a big rig, right? They don't get in the way of each other because they're all heading for the same place. It's when one gets out of alignment and he's kind of curved to the side, and the car is struggling now, right? Because the one's gotten stuck, or it's got a flat tire or something. I think the analogy works. The metaphor works. Probably not perfect, but it works, right? So you're reconciling these two. That's what I teach. That's what inner reconciliation is all about. Reconciling these energy. So you stop taking sides. Don't take the side of freedom, and safety won't be an enemy. Don't take the side of safety, and freedom won't be an enemy. Come into this place I call the peacemaker. You don't take a side. That's the little exercise I did a bit before with Lexi, of just allowing. Just let it be there. Let it flow through you. When you do that, you're not taking sides. When you do that, you are pure awareness. Pure awareness has no preference. It doesn't take sides. It has no attachment to any particular result. It's simply presence. And so now everything can move as it naturally does. And you can literally bring these two energies together and ask them to cooperate. And you'll suddenly find creative solutions where you didn't have them before. You'll suddenly find yourself, you will find yourself first and foremost at peace, because you're no longer fighting. You're no longer taking sides. You've become the benevolent mediator. And you find that there's a natural harmony between all of these energies inside of you that eventually reflects itself in your circumstances. Alessandra, hello from Monterey. Hello, Alessandra. So nice to hear from you. Lexi says, thank you, GP. Breakthrough. Yeah, got it. You got it. You got it. I can feel it. Claysu says, okay, now what? What do I do today? Okay. That is your mind. Your mind is not going to let you rest and say, okay, I got it. This is great. I'm enlightened. I'm aware now. I got all this. I'm pure awareness. What do I do? Right? The habit of going back and believing that nonsense is there. When you say, okay, now what? What do I do? What does that feel like? Does that feel good? Do you feel open? Do you feel expansive? Do you feel like you're the universe? Or do you feel like you're limited and you're struggling and something's had to happen? Right? You can tell from that energy that that's not where you want to go. That is not the direction you want to head. What do you need to do today? How do you know? What do I need to do today? I don't know. There are things that I needed to do today. There was a the video I have to make, I have to be here for this, which means I had some things to set up. You know, I knew that that was happening. I got up in the morning, a whole bunch of other stuff happened. I actually finished the video that I have to do release tomorrow for the class 45 minutes before it was time to do this. Oh, look, the lights are all set up. I just moved things around a little bit, moving the computer for a live stream rather than the video camera for that. And voila, we're here. We're ready. We're doing it. What am I going to do after this? Well, I've got some time between now and tomorrow. Editing has to happen. The editing of the video that I did and the sound processing, all of this. Right? But, this has got to go through and put a description and other stuff on it, and maybe hack off the beginning, the end, if there was a bunch of dead space and things like that. So I know those things have to do, and I know they'll get done. I also know I'm not doing them. If I think I'm doing them, I look and I go, oh God, I don't want to do this. So what do I do today is an invitation, or a now what, is an invitation to go back to looking to your mind for answers to your life, and you will never find them there. One of the things that Moody does in his invitation, where it takes you into this place of pure awareness, says what, and the mind will say, what's next? What's next? Okay, I'm here. Let go of the past and the future. I'm here now. What's next? You go, no next. Just be here. This moment isn't a stepping stone to the next one. This isn't a preparation. Now I can get at my real life, which is over here, the great goal I want to fulfill. It's not that. You're here. This is it. What you need to do will happen. You need not make it happen. You'll find yourself doing it. It's not like you're going to just sit there and stuff's going to happen around you. You're a part of it, right? The detachment doesn't mean you're not in it, right? I mean, you can't be detached from a love affair, or it won't be a love affair. I mean, there's got to be emotional energy, and it's got to be emotional connection and all that. So you're there. You're totally present with it. Simultaneously, you're aware that it's all just happening by itself. It's unfolding by itself. And you're not really making it. You're simply making yourself available to it. And now you're in the flow of life. Does that help? Ivan asks, says, when I allowed the pain between my eyebrows, like you suggested, suddenly it turned into some strange softness, lightness. This is true for all feelings and emotions, isn't it? Thank you, G. Yes. Yes, it is. Because there's no story anymore. It's just pure sensation. When it's pure sensation, you find that there's no suffering in experience. Suffering is all in the mind's interpretation laid on top of experience, and at the heart of that interpretation is our belief in ourselves as being a form, as being the person. Period. It's so simple and direct. And anybody can get it. There's no rules. You don't have to spend 30 years in meditation. I did. and then I really, I said, geez, the amount of time I spent when I didn't need to. But I'm grateful for it because I've got all these things I know and all these experiences I've had that I can share with you, so you don't have to do that. So you can just go the direct path. And yes, isn't it a beautiful thing? Because you just see it for yourself. You don't have to listen to me. So, I'm not guru. I don't have to be the guru, right? By the way, the word guru simply means the one who removes darkness. That's all it means. One who removes darkness, whatever form that might take. Sometimes it can be a cat sitting on your lap, purring, removing the darkness. And so to see it for yourself right before your very eyes, when you simply let it be there, it changed. Because you are no longer experiencing your story about it and a resistance to it. You are actually experiencing it as it actually is. And everything as it really is completely without suffering. Poppy. Hello, Poppy. She says, hi, G. Thank you so much for making my Sundays even brighter. Thank you. How beautiful. How beautiful. Ah, Ali. Hey, GP. I might have an unpopular opinion here. Well, let's see. But I just don't believe in any of this stuff. I don't believe in God, enlightenment, and modern religion, or any of that spiritual stuff. Good. Neither do I. I don't believe in anything. Belief is a killer. Belief is superstition. Belief creates shit out of nothing. It makes wars, it makes hatred, it makes bigotry, it makes all the nasty stuff. That's all beliefs. I don't believe in any of it either. I am not asking you to believe anything. I am asking you to become curious about who you actually are and not accept anybody's idea what that is, including the leading belief that you're just a material structure within a material world and not. You don't have to accept my position that it's, that a consciousness model. I'm only inviting you to look. I'm inviting you to accept a simple, self-evident truth. And that is, people suffer and crave freedom. That is unmistakable. That's what Buddha meant in the Four Noble Truths. There is suffering. Boom. You exist. Undeniable. I'm only inviting you to ask, who am I? What is it that exists? It says, my philosophy is if I do good, then I will receive good. That's a belief. I've done a lot of good stuff and not received anything in place. So throw that out. Don't believe in any of this stuff. Buddhism, they actually refer to this. They call it the great doubt. So if I do good, then I will receive good. That's a belief, right? So according to your own premise, you need to throw that out too. There's a lot of people who do a lot of good and get slammed. And they try to come up with some spiritual reason for it. God is preparing them and all sorts of stuff. There's no evidence that if you do good, you're going to receive good. It's a belief. As long as I feel like I'm morally doing the right things in life, why should I bother learning the things that are unlearnable? Okay, I feel like I'm morally doing the right things in life. Well, who told you they were the right things? I encourage you to look at all those things. When you say morally right, that's a belief. One person says it's morally right to kill you because you're interfering with me, or you're a threat, you're a terrorist. Right? That's morally right. I don't think it's morally right from your point of view. If I'm the guy on the other end of it, it's not morally right. This guy's, right? You're the terrorist killing me. So I'm really inviting you to look that the only way you could say morally right is that you've taken a position. And I'm asking you to try to verify the truth of that position. I'm trying to get you to a place where you can see whether or not that's really true. So consciousness will always be mysterious. That's absolutely true. It's a complete unknowable. That's why it's so fascinating learning about it. Yeah, absolutely, it is, because it is. It doesn't follow any of the other rules. I think last week I was talking about that and the scientific approach to it, and a lot of scientists who even say, well, they use the idea that it is an emergent property of matter, the complexity of matter. Matter got so complex that it created consciousness, but nobody's really satisfied with that answer because consciousness is qualitatively so different than any of the piece parts that appear to make it up. There's nothing that points to an obvious origin to that. There's no consciousness molecule or a self-aware molecule. So it is very mysterious. So I invite people to study it and to look into it, but there's only one place you can look into it, and that's in yourself, because you're consciousness. You are conscious. So I can't study it like an object, because every object I study, I don't find it, right? The only place I find it is here. So that's the only place I can study it. And he goes on, however, for me, I just want to become successful, independent, at peace within me. I want to travel, see the world, and experience life at its peak before I die. What do you think? I think it's a great ambition. I do the same thing. I love traveling. I love seeing the world. I did, right? A couple of years ago, before I moved settled in New York for a little bit, for 2 years, I didn't have a home. I went all over the place. Lived in Las Vegas, I was in Toronto, I was in London, I was in India, I was in Germany, I was in Austria, I was California, I was just all over the place. And I loved every minute of it. But none of that answers the question of who am I? Right? It's wonderful experience, but who are you? Of course you want to be more successful. I do too. I want my business to be more successful. I'd love to have 1,000 people here on Satsang, right? I've got right now, it tells me what I got. I think it tells me. It did before. I got something in the way. 47 are watching now. And, you know, people come and go, right? So I'd love to have 147, 1,047. Wouldn't that be great? That's, yes, everybody has a desire for success. Good. Good. Now look at that really closely, because there's consciousness behind that. You're conscious of success. It's not like, because I will define success differently than you do. The real estate developer can level an ancient forest and feel that that's a success. You know, trees are a problem. Where somebody else come along and say, what are you doing? This is like, you know, you're destroying, you know, thousands, maybe tens of thousands of species. You're devastating this thing of great beauty. Two different perspectives. Who's right? Who's wrong? What does success mean? This is when it becomes a deep and existential search for yourself, right? And I can tell by the fact that you're listening here and consciousness is interesting to me. It's not just about knowing success and being independent. There's a deeper question within you. I can sense it, right? And I just totally salute you. Do not accept this spiritual stuff, right? People do that. I will kick somebody upside the head who hands back. I'll answer a question about, say, oh, that's pure awareness. And I go, wham, no, it isn't. What do you mean no, it isn't? That's what you teach. Well, you don't think that. I'm not interested in you giving me the answer you think I want. I want to hear what you have to say. Who are you? Tell me about you. Now we can engage. The Zen master would say, you know, somebody would say, are you everything or nothing? I'm everything. Whack, no, you're not. And he'd say, oh, I'm nothing. Whack, no, you're not. Because none of it was truthful. All of it was just the mind trying to imitate, trying to make something happen. So stick to your guns, my friend. Don't believe any of this, right? But be willing to question, to take that doubt all the way. When you say, I want to be good, what does that mean? Where's that coming from? Is this really something you've chosen? Then where's that coming from? And if what you've chosen, this, when you say it's chosen, this is moral to me. Why? Because somebody told you that? Because something inside of you sees a level of goodness in that. That seeing of the goodness, recognize something as intrinsically moral, is intrinsically good, is inherently, that's a different level of perception than just a moral code or a moral philosophy. This is getting to a place where basically you come face to face with love. Morality, for me, is love. If it's loving, it's moral. If it's not loving, it's not. So behavior, which is moral guidance, is now coming from here. It's coming from wisdom. I hope that helps, Ali. Thank you for that. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Dagang, I can only remember things happened after the birth of this body. Why is that? Well, actually, a lot of that you don't remember either, do you? Do you remember what you had for breakfast yesterday? or 2 weeks ago? Right? There's plenty of people. I've had experiences, other people, they can take you past life regressions. Is it real? Who knows? But there's plenty of experiences we have that are hard to account for. There's things I've done when working with people in private sessions, stuff has come up, traumatic material that's influencing their life in the moment that clearly didn't have its origin in this life. And I sense it energetically, not because I can point to a particular event or something like that. I mean, if you were to look at it in terms of past life, and let's say you had 1,000 past life, I think it's pretty merciful that we don't remember them all. Really, I mean, I'm having enough of a time processing the crap that happened to me when I was a kid from this one. I mean, please don't give me 1,000 more of them. But we when you wake up from a dream in the morning, you may for a little bit remember some of it, and then usually it's gone. 99.999% of the stuff we dream is gone. There may be some that appear to have an enormous profundity for us, and we can carry it for many, many years, maybe for good. But most of the stuff we don't remember, right? And in between lives, remember, you really believe yourself to be Dagong, right? I'm trying to show you that you're not, right? But at death, everything you believed about yourself is gone. Right? The entire world. It's like waking up from a dream, because you're not that. You know you're not that. You don't know what you are. And there can still be this energy that wants to be somebody and creates a new life. You enter into that, you become that, you think in those terms, you are that, and all of this is just forgotten. Oftentimes you can speak to children and they will talk about experiences and stuff. I've had some really interesting ones myself, little kids. And it's like coming from a completely different place, because that boundary isn't as solid yet. The more you believe yourself to be a person, the more the mind and everything is just going to filter everything out. It's just poof, it's gone. It's irrelevant. So you're going to say, I don't remember, and that's really all you can say. If I don't remember, then I don't remember. So don't try to turn it into anything more than that. Just, okay, that's cool. That's good. I don't remember it. Because the only thing you really need to concern yourself with is what's happening right now. And you don't even need to know the origin of what's happening right now, just that it's happening. And if you let what is be with no story, and that includes past lives and all, just put all of that aside, karma, the whole thing, but just be 100% present. Be the presence that is all now, that is not in the past or in the future, but is right now. Right now, you'll find that right now, there's no mind. There's just you and what's being experienced. And you will find pure happiness there. Remington, the real question was how to work on the sacral and root chakra. There is some work I want to do there. No, because you're associating them with something. What you're associating them is what you need, is where you want to focus your attention. Forget whether they're in the root or the sacral chakra. You have a conflict between your desire for freedom and the energy of safety. Safety doesn't want anything to change. Freedom wants everything to change. And right now, you have sided with freedom and you've made safety an enemy. And so you're having an internal conflict with it. That's all that's happening. Drop your attachment to what you think is going to make you free and just cherish the idea of greater freedom, and then cherish the idea that there's this incredible energy within the system that works 24/7 and has since the moment the sperm met the egg to keep you safe, so that you can enjoy the freedom once you get it. And all you're trying to do is for that safety to change. It can't change its nature. It can't become now, I'm going to love freedom. It can't do that. Its nature is safety. But it can change the way it implements safety so that you can enjoy a greater and greater freedom and you have a harmony between the two. Stop siding with freedom as if it's the most important thing. It isn't. It is one of two most important things. And let them reconcile between the two. Remington says, thanks for answering. Oh, you're very welcome. Oh, let's see. Robert. Hello, Robert. It's from Southern Nevada. Hi, Robert. Southern Nevada. Is that like near Las Vegas? No, I think it's further south. I always forget where that is. Anyway, Liz Love. Hi from New Jersey. Hi, Liz. Robert. Melinda. You look younger and more attractive and happier and more peaceful each time I check into you. Well, thank you. I think I am getting younger. Yeah. And I do find myself getting yeah, more peaceful and resigned. I mean, it's an ongoing thing, folks. You know, even though awakening took place for me a very long time, it's not like it immediately sank into the nervous system. And every day I discover something more I can release, something more I can let go of, something more I can sink into. I can allow more love to come to me. I can allow more things to happen for me. Less and less struggle. It's like it never ends. Just when I think, oh yeah, I got it down, it's like, no, there's a whole other level. It's like this flower that never stops opening. And I also find that what's happening over the last couple of years is my teaching has become focused more and more and more on this, and less on the preparation, which is inner reconciliation. I keep hoping to get a whole new generation of teachers and facilitators for inner reconciliation, um, because it's important. It's very important that we learn. I mean, what I was talking about with Remington about how to resolve these internal conflicts, to step into this position where you begin to understand that there's a lot of different energies within the human being that need to be harmonized. And we've all been taught to take a particular position, to get stuck in a particular belief, to be that person. And so learning how to work with our own internal energies, but not with this agenda of making them do what we want, but to bring them into harmony so we know inner peace, is still extremely powerful and important. Um, and I want that to be perpetuated. But personally, I'd be happy as a clam if I just sat all day and did this and just discuss with each one of us who you really are. This nameless, formless, wonderful consciousness that is not an idea, that invites you to come and look for yourself and see if you don't draw the same conclusion I did, which is what every real sage does, what every real teacher does. They invite you to look for yourself. They just give pointers, right? And then you look, because if you see it for yourself, it's done, right? Once you fall in love, nobody has to tell you what falling in love is about. And when it happens, you don't need anybody to tell you that it happened, do you? Right? When you see who you are, you don't need anybody to confirm it for you. It's self-evident because it is yourself. You simply recognize yourself. You look in your mirror and go, oh yeah, that's me. Of course it's me. Thank you. Robert, since it's hard to define who we are, it's impossible actually, what are some things that we might consider like helpful to people, giving to others as qualities? Yeah, absolutely. Muji likes to refer to it as this perfume that fills the air, but when you look for the flower, you can't find it. The perfume of the true self, of the real you, is love, benevolence, kindness, intelligence, creativity, cleverness, fun, mischievousness, joy, helpfulness, giving. That's the perfume of the self. Those are the qualities of being. When those are distorted by the ego, you just get their opposites: selfishness, arrogance, um, conflict, war, hoarding, greed, which are just the imaginary absence of the true nature of the self. The ego, which feels it's absent and has to get it from outside, creates this environment of lack, and that's the world we're living in right now. But it's simply, the ego is nothing but our identification with the ignorance of who we are. So, yeah, the thing that's important is that when you know who you are, these qualities of compassion and unselfishness and fun and joy and playfulness happen. But to simply imitate the behavior of compassion, of unselfishness, of humility, and that kind of thing doesn't get you to the self. And that's kind of the moral approach, right? That's kind of the wide river. I'm going to be more compassionate. I'm going to be more, and it's good. It's better, way better. I mean, a well-behaved ego is a way better thing than a misbehaving ego like we have in the world. But those are qualities of the true self. And when it comes from the true self, you don't have to have morality. You don't, it's not a behavior you need to try to imitate. It comes from who you are. And that's really what's meant by grace. That's what's meant by grace you're saved, that you can't imitate it. And it's gotten really narrowed and misinterpreted by fundamentalists to say that it's nothing you do, it's just accepting Christ. It's actually right. Accepting Christ, that is, accepting your true nature as you really are. So it isn't anything you do. You don't become a good person. You become resurrected as who you actually are, which is the ultimate good being. It's not even a person. It's God incarnate. You literally become the divine inhabiting the human. And the human is now seen as nothing but God's face. There's the Sufi poem that starts, wherever the eye lights, it sees the face of God. Sophie, please help me with my grandmother, who at 100 has broken both her legs. I get so fearful and long to trust in the benign. Oh, Sophie. I'm actually out here visiting my sister, who broke a leg, a knee, and a shoulder simultaneously, and was incapacitated for the first time in her life. And my sister's much older. She's almost 80. She's much older than I. And I've been here helping out with her. First off, let the fear that you have about your grandmother and what this is going to mean, 100, incapacitated or die, right? Just bring those fears up. Just bring them. Say, come. There's no need to hold anything back. Just let all those fears come. Of course they're there. You love your grandmother. You want her to go on forever, right? The fact is, she does go on forever. Not as a form. The form will, but she will go on forever, right? I mean, believe me, I don't look the way I did, right? And I know this form is not going to go on forever, right? So just don't resist the fear. I want to fix it. Don't try to fix it. Just be totally present with it. Just allow it to be there. This happened in her life, okay, right? Don't need to take any responsibility. Don't need to try to fix it. Presence, just presence. And you find that presence has no fear. Right? You're aware of fear, right? But if not identified as somebody trying to change things, who's a position that needs to be in opposition to fear, drop that. Fear just goes right through you, doesn't it? And now you can just hold your grandmother in that love. Hold her in the truth of her being, because the self that you are is the self that she is, which means in her true self, she can't suffer either. So don't impose that on her. Don't put that on her. I'm totally with you, Grandma. What's her name? We'll all be totally with her. We'll all embrace her. Like, give us that. Just her first name's fine. And we'll all just embrace her together. Right? And support her and be her body and be her strength and be her confidant and support you in the process. And then you'll find that the benign that you're seeking is you. Without the fear, you become the benign. It's not a thing you have to get out there. When you just let this all pass through, you find you are the benevolence. You are the presence of the benign. And your very presence becomes the most powerful healing force there is. And you don't have to have any expectations as to how that happens or what it should look like, or if it looks very ordinary or looks miraculous. Jesus didn't plan on doing miracles. I'm going to do miracles now. He was just doing his thing. And I'm sure there were millions of little things that happen all the time that seem quite unmiraculous. Right? Sophie says, her name is Myrtle. Thank you so much. Myrtle. Just let it be so exactly as it needs to be for you, so that you fully experience the total range of life and move on to your awakening to who you really are. Everything that happens is for that. Alex. Hello, Alex. Hi, GP. I've heard the term chakra is under 100 years old and can't be found or mentioned in any relevant sacred book or teachings. However old. Do they exist for real? The chakras are mentioned older than that. Remember, the word chakra is simply the Sanskrit word for wheel. That's all it means. And that is an old word. And it refers to a wheel of a cart. And there's many words that are related, sukha and dukkha and things like that. The bottom line is that, as you might have heard me say, talking to Remy, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether they're these. I do not believe that there are these spinning vortexes of light. Right? I believe that those are models. Those are representations. What I do know, what I have direct experience with, and so do you, is that part of my consciousness, that part of what I'm aware of in the human being that is really committed to safety, and the part that's committed to freedom, and a part that's committed to creating stories, and a part that's committed to altruism, and a part that's committed to having a vision for life. There's all these different parts. And when I kind of take them apart and look at them individually rather than have them all clumped together, the way a painter would take apart the colors of the palette in order to combine them together to make interesting colors, I see that they're a reality that this model of the chakras is giving expression to. So the model isn't real, no. And I do not believe in spinning vortexes of light. I don't. I've never seen them. I know people who have, and really who have, but even their experience of them isn't like these spinning things. They're like information to them. It's like they can just kind of read things at a different level. We don't have to create this thing where, oh, they're a real thing. That's the modern mind is like that. It's always making something into an object, right? Oh, the chakras, and they're real, and they're spinning vortex of light. It looks great on New Age posters, looks really cute, but it's useless. It's useless information. So, yeah, don't take it like that. It's unnecessary. But the drive, the natural drive towards safety that can become really restrictive, where we can get in conflict, we want to do something, and our nervous system, which has been trained into a certain mode of safety, says no, and we find ourselves being self-sabotaged and held back. That's real, isn't it? You all experience it. So I can use a model like the chakras and take people who believe in the chakras and bring them to a deeper level of understanding to see the function. I can take somebody neurologically and I can explain exactly the same thing. I can take psychology and I can explain it in exactly the same way. There's a thing called subpersonalities, psychology, Jungian archetypes. I can use all of those and explain exactly the same phenomena. The phenomena we all know intimately and personally. And that's our own experience of the drive towards safety and the drive towards freedom in its most fundamental level. There's others too. So does that help you, Alex, with understanding that? Yeah. I mean, none of this, we don't have to believe any of it. I even heard a wonderful Buddhist monk. I mean, guy devoted his whole life. I mean, he doesn't even have a home. He just goes from monastery to monastery talking about the Buddha. He says, Buddha, I don't even know if the Buddha actually existed. Because he'd gone beyond the need for this historical fact. And he recognized, he found the Buddha within him, the real energy to which that this really means. That's why in Zen they'd say, if you meet the Buddha on the road, kill him. Because it's nothing objective. It's nothing out there. It's all our subjective experience. People, when they're very new or ignorant, try to turn it, what in fact is very subjective, into some kind of knowable object, and then try to make that into a real thing from which the experience has been derived. And it's exactly the opposite. Every model is a projection of the actual experience. The experience itself is much more amorphous. It's much more ephemeral. So I hope that answers it. Ali says, thank you for the insightful reply. I really hope that helps you. Like I said, in Buddhism, there's a tenet of the great doubt. They say great doubt, great enlightenment. Small doubt, small enlightenment. No doubt, no enlightenment. Ignorance is doubtlessness. I'm really certain. That's ignorance. You are really stuck And dude, you're going to do nasty shit if you do that. That's what fundamentalism is. That's what terrorism comes from. All of this stuff, it's all coming from this conviction of belief. Doubt is our friend. Do not get stuck in any beliefs. Robert says, thanks. Great. Vicky says, hi from London. Hi, Vicky. Greetings from London. Ishta, Sophie, I sent my positive thoughts and prayers to your dear grandmother and to you, dear. Great. See, the wellstring of support that it's available. And believe me, that makes a difference. Poppy says, sweet grandma. Pam says, this may be my ego speaking, but I'm uncomfortable with your talking about having the role of my teacher. It feels better to accept you as another human and sharing with me. My problem, probably. I'm not the teacher or the guru. The guru is always internal. Right now, I'm sharing ideas with you. I'm pointing you to places. So you could say I'm playing the role of teacher. Am I your teacher? No. No. There is, in spiritual circles, there can be a formal relationship between a teacher and a student. That can happen. But, I'm in the role of a teacher now. I'm fielding questions and I'm giving answers and I'm pointing you into a direction. Is that what I am? No, that's only what's happening in this moment. So no, it's not your ego, right? There is partially it's the ego because the ego does not want to surrender to somebody else. It doesn't want to grant any authority to somebody else, right? And oftentimes that's a smart thing to do. We don't want to just hand authority off. We should never hand authority off, right? If people find what I say valuable and authoritative, take it in and check it against the only authority that really exists, and that's your own experience. That's what I'm always pointing back to, right? Don't take my word for this. What are you experiencing? I invite people to go, are you not aware? Are you not experiencing awareness? Isn't that the I? And I'm telling you, look, don't take my word for it. Just look and see. And when you do that, your own authority arises. And that's where the real teacher is. That's the meaning in Sanskrit of Sadguru. It means the ultimate, the inner teacher, the inner you that removes darkness. And that's the only place I want to point people back to, because that's the ultimate authority. And even if I say the most brilliant things in the world, it's up to you to decide whether or not they're brilliant, right? They're not brilliant in and of themselves. Nothing is, unless you decide they are. But I don't want to talk you into it. I want you to experience it for yourself. Then you have a confidence and authority that you can be the teacher without being the teacher. You can, it's not an identity. When I turn this off and this is over, I become the editor and I turn off lights and I move stuff around and change my clothes and I pull out SD cards and I do a bunch of other stuff, and I'm not the teacher at all, right? So it's just a role for the moment. So I hope that puts you at rest. You're the authority, Pam. You are now and you always will be. And I will never say anything other than that. Here's a name I can't pronounce. Sombor? Did I say it right? Zombor. Sombor. Naji. Is being present always ideal? Say you are in a thought and motivated or excited. Is it ideal to get present and silence those thoughts, emotions, or ignore present sometimes? That's a misunderstanding. To be present is to be present with the excitement, right? We avoid being present with things that we interpret as negative. The more present we are, the less negativity there is, and it just becomes pure experience. The same thing is true of excitement. When we're present with the excitement, what happens is all of the stuff we've projected on this excitement. Oh, it's going to be really great, and we project our happiness in the future, and all of that sort of stuff goes away. And there's just the pure energy of the excitement, the motivation, the wanting to do it. That's life itself. You cannot get away from that. And the more present you are, the stronger that gets. the more motivated you become, because there's no story on top of it anymore. It's not being siphoned off. It's not being taken and put to some egoic need, to be important or something. It's just pure desire. It's the pure energy of life, which means it's at its most potent. So whether it be a desire or be a fear, when you are totally present, they can be what they are and move through your life in the best way possible. Because fear needs to be there sometimes. If there's something really threatening, the fear needs to be there. And when you're really clear and present, that's a danger. I'm moving away from that. Smart, good. The same thing with desire. When the desire is pure, it doesn't have this thing laid on top of it that, if I don't get my desire, I'm not going to be happy, which is bullshit, which is what's going to siphon off the energy and now try to make the desire conform to some narrow little idea that we have. Without that, it's pure energy. It's the pure energy of motivation. It's the pure energy of doing. So you're being present with motivation and excitement is only going to increase it. Presence isn't just this withdrawing to this neutral place. The neutral place allows everything that's there to be itself fully. So you're both peaceful and in the neutral place and fully engaged with life simultaneously. It's not one or the other. Does that answer it for you, Sombor? Did I say that right? Alex says, thanks, GP. Great answer. Thank you, sir. AJ, namaste from India. Namaste. Pam says, thanks, brother. Namaste. Good, yes. Happy to be your brother. AJ says, I understand I am conscious. Please help me understand that the consciousness is infinite. Okay, well, that's a word you heard. That's a term you were taught. Consciousness is infinite. And I could say, consciousness is infinite. Okay, look for yourself. Just as best you can, just feel your own self-awareness. Everybody can do this. It's really nice to do. Oh, wow, I've gone late. Everybody, it's fine, I don't care. Anybody can do this. Just be aware of being aware, right? There's the stuff that I'm aware of, and it's clearly coming and going. It's finite. It's not infinite, clearly. And then there's me conscious of it. The consciousness itself, the awareness itself. Can you find a boundary to it? Just look and see if you can. And if you find some place where it seems to be bound, are you not aware of that boundary? Which means you know it's a boundary, so you're looking beyond it. There's clearly a boundary to knowledge, to the content of consciousness. But is there a boundary to consciousness? Is there something that can't get into consciousness because it's not big enough? Is there any thought or experience you've had so big that consciousness couldn't contain it? Just look for yourself. Just stretch your awareness in every direction and see if there's a point at which you can stop stretching it. You can't go any further. Then you'll know for yourself from your direct experience that it's infinite, that there are no boundaries on it. But even infinite becomes an inaccurate word because we think of infinite as like, infinite space. It's an object. It doesn't have any dimensions. It doesn't exist in space or time. So even infinite and eternal are limits on it. But again, this is an exercise you can do for yourself. Just go to that place that is aware, which is easy. I mean, are you aware? Yes, right. I asked you, are you aware? You answered, yes. In between there, where'd you go? What were you looking at to give me the answer? Yes, I am aware. Stare at that awareness It sounds like you're staring at something else, but notice that it isn't an object you were looking at. There was something very subtle, very intimate, very close that you were aware of. That's simply awareness aware of itself. And see if you can find a boundary to it. And don't be in a hurry. You know, this isn't an idea that you get that says, oh, consciousness is infinite. And then you're satisfied. It's not satisfying, is it? Right? I mean, you've heard it. You might even believe it, but it wasn't satisfying to you. Okay, so keep going. Keep pushing until you know for certain, is it or isn't it? If you do that, you'll just keep going and eventually go, my God, there's no end to it. Thank you. You're welcome. Vicky, I'm happy for you to be my teacher anytime. So I'm learning a lot I didn't understand as much. Life events are more clear now, and I can discern things. I'm happy to let you call me your teacher, and be it. I'm happy to play that role. Yeah, it's everybody's needs are different, and because I know myself as the nothing that can become anything, I'll be a teacher or not. It's fine. I show up as the moment requires, without an agenda. Then I just am, and then it's not even GP anymore. It's just, the universe is taking care of the universe. Sambor says, thank you. I still want to know if I'm saying your name right. Sambor says, thank you. You're very welcome. Pam says, okay, I admit I've also learned a lot from you, and you've made a big difference in my life for the better. It's fine. That's so cute. We've all learned from each other. There are people that I just, my heart, Muji, of course, but Nisargadatta and Ramana, and the more I've read of the Buddhist sutras, and I mean, just the more it's like, yeah, these are my teachers. I mean, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you and telling you the things I'm telling you if it hadn't been for them. So I mean, it's an incredible honor that I can actually sit and talk about the same stuff. It's like, are you kidding? I actually get to speak on these like Buddha did. It's like, whoa. Noel, hi Noel. Hi Noel in Ireland. Please don't stop doing videos. I find your way of explaining it so clear. Thank you. Thank you very much, Noel. I haven't been doing as many of them lately because I've been focusing on facilitator training and other courses that I'm doing. And really just trying to be a little bit more focused about them too, especially the ones that I just kind of put out there. Because before I would just like turn on the camera, talk about anything for a while. I was doing a bunch of them. I've got 560 videos on YouTube. And now I'm focusing a little bit more on that which is most important, which is, like this. And also I'm relying on, the donations from Patreon to help me keep all of this going, so I can do the stuff that has to earn me money, and keep the school going, the institute going, as well as do all the stuff for free, which is what I really love to do, is just sit down and do this. I do this all day, as I said. So thank you very much. I will, in the best way, the best thing for me is to just post questions to me and send them to support@masterheartinstitute.com. And I get the questions. They're really where I get a lot of the ideas for the videos, because I like it to be in response to people, like a satsang, rather than just me kind of going off on something. Meryl, hi Meryl. Good buddy Meryl. Hi, hello from Australia. Forever learning. Thanks, Greg. Yeah. Meryl is soon to be Saint Meryl. I mean, it's just amazing the transformation this woman has gone through. Icarus 77. Do you have any personal examples of law of attraction working that really stand out? Mere hearing testimonies from others helps increase my belief, therefore manifest. Well, I teach the law of attraction and manifestation very, very differently. Because what happens is with the law of attraction, we get so used to our normal life, but what we're looking for is the miraculous and the exceptional to happen. And we go, oh, there it is, it worked. But you know, if you have a desire for a latte, I love extra hot almond milk lattes. If I have a desire for that, and the money's already there, I just go buy one, right? And don't even have to make it myself. That's not a manifestation, right? Yeah, it is. That's a manifestation. Desire, supply, fulfillment. That's it. I mean, every day is a manifestation. You know, a gym membership showed up for me that was that I could get for a year because I'm coming to Seattle more because my sister's got injured and I have a granddaughter now, right? And every time I came, I like to work out. I like to take care of my body. And so, you know, it's like $80 for a month, and I'm only here for like 2 weeks. So this time I worked it out with them, and I got a whole membership that I can like post on left for less money, right? That's a manifestation, right? So now I never have to think about it again. I mean, it's always here. I don't have to worry, get it started. It's just here. And I can call them and say, suspend it for a month. I'm not going to be there, right? And okay, start it again. That's a manifestation. You know, people that help me in the business, the idea, the flow of ideas that I get as to what I can do classes on and what people need. It's a manifestation. I've also noticed over the last several months the amount of money coming into MasterHEART has increased. I haven't really done that much different except be more open and receptive to more money coming into MasterHEART. It's increased. As a matter of fact, it's at the highest levels it's been in years in terms of the money that's accumulated there. And now at that different level, I'm looking to, well, how do I actually manage? I'm not a very good money manager. You know, I'll be blunt. I had a lot of money and lost it. I mean, I've gone through it. And so I'm standing back now, okay, I need to manifest a way in which I can really make use of this to grow, right? And so different things are coming, different things I can learn about making videos, people to help me with, you know, getting this message out there, people to help me organizing events. I was invited to do to lead a live retreat at the Krishnamurti Center in Canada. All of those are manifestations. Right? The way I teach manifestation is the first thing you have to do is open yourself up to that there's unlimited possibilities, and then start looking for the evidence of it right now in your life that begins to help confirm it. So that you can see that what's going on in your life isn't just a bunch of mechanical things happen, but everything is a result of it. And if you really are who I say you are, there should be evidence of it. So start looking for the evidence. Then when you see the evidence and you draw that line that connects the evidence of the things that are happening in your life with the energy of your own inner world, boom, you now see how it works. And it doesn't have to be something huge. You know, I needed a pencil, somebody handed me a pencil. You could say, oh, it's coincidence. Or you could say, you know, I think that's it. I think that's it. And also, if things don't go the way you want, oh, I'm not manifesting correctly. No, don't be thinking so much about what you want and what you don't want. It's just of what you're feeling. Because all we want is to feel happy. So if we see it as, how do I feel more happy in this moment than I did in the previous moment? It becomes a very different discussion than, how do I get into my life the things that I want that are going to make me feel happy? That's a struggle. And that's what the attitude most people have when they start looking at the law of attraction stuff. And I say, throw that out. It's a waste of time. You want to be happy. That's what you want right now. Well, is there a happier thought you can think right now that will feel better than one you have? Well, then do it. Boom. You've just manifested increased happiness in your life. And as I like to say, you cannot create a happy ending out of a miserable life. You want to have a happy ending? Have a happy now. Make being happy in this moment your number one priority. The rest will take care of itself. You don't even have to worry about the law of attraction and all that. Call it something else. There's a natural association. When the mind starts operating in a certain direction, it tends to stay going in that direction. You can tell. Have a conversation with a friend, talking about something terrible, how horrible the world is. You go on for hours and hours, and it gets worse and worse, and more horrible things, right? Because that's just the way the mind works. It gets in a groove, and it just starts creating more thoughts like that one. That's the attraction, right? Whatever is like unto itself is drawn. That's what Abraham says, right? And conversely, get in a conversation with somebody about something light and funny. Before you know it, you're laughing, and the laughing just keeps going and going, right? Same thing. It's a very natural energy. There's nothing esoteric about it. This is the way life functions. So simply choose something better in each moment. Choose to see things as a manifestation of life and love, rather than the vehicle by which you achieve life and love. Then you won't have to worry about any of this, my friend. And so when I say my personal experience of LOA, it's like, that's all there is. That's all I experience, right? It's all I do is attract things, right? And if I don't like what I'm attracting, I look at me. You know, if the guy in the mirror is overweight, I don't put the mirror on a diet, right? So everything that comes in manifestation, it's like, oh, okay, you know, that I need to adjust that. That's not really what I'm after. So back to myself. Everything is a manifestation, but I don't use it as this, I'm trying to get to a manifestation. I use it as a playful way to help see myself more completely, to see myself reflected and not just my self-image, to see my whole energetic body. Does that help, Akaris? Klesu, you express yourself with confidence. I have a fear of being invalidated, attacked by others for what I know in social expression. Good, then just keep quiet for a while. Just let it marinate, let it sink in. You know, I remember I've known this stuff for a long time, right? And when I first started learning this, nobody knew it, right? It was brand new. I mean, this was like the late 60s, early 70s. I mean, there was no consciousness movement. There was no secret. There were no self-help books, for crying out loud. Nobody knew who Wayne Dyer and Abraham and all of that stuff was. And I'd share this stuff, and I'd get rocks thrown at me. And I got really intimidated by it. And, you know, I try to be really clever and rational about it. And, right, just quiet. Just be quiet. Let it sink in. Let your energy speak it. And you'll find that people just kind of be drawn to you. They're going to want what you have. And the words are just going to come. And it'll be just so easy and just so fluid. And to this day, if there's not a receptivity where I'm speaking, I don't say anything. I don't have to say anything, right? It's like, oh no, this is it. We're going to attract peace and love into the world. I don't have to do that, right? Where there's an openness, the openness comes. It's like, remember, you're showing up as nobody, and you're going to become whatever the moment requires. And if that moment requires you to just be there and not say a word, then you be there and not say a word. And you're just totally fine with that. So just let it sink in, and you will find that some real friendships where you can speak about it. If you've taken any of my classes at MasterHEART, come into the Facebook group, private Facebook group we have. We have plenty of people who love to hear what you have to say about it. We'll just totally eat it up. You know, the cost of entry is any product that I've sold ever, including like a $7 meditation, and you get to be part of the group and ask questions and I answer it. So, you know, I just limited it to not anybody coming in there because I didn't want any discussion. I wanted some experience with this. So it was a group of people who really were supportive. So we're creating a bit of a sangha there. So, so don't worry about it. The authority will come, right? Yeah, it's really hard to intimidate me these days. So, AJ, thanks for answering. I will try it myself. Try to find if there's any boundary to consciousness. Yeah, just keep exploring it, right? Make this not like everything else. Even like I teach manifestation, it's not about the manifestation. It's about the happy life. It's about the steps to it, right? Am I having fun? You don't make a happy ending out of a miserable life. Am I having fun now, right? So don't make I'm infinite consciousness this great goal you have to achieve. Have real fun right this moment. Am I infinite right now? Really? It doesn't feel that way. Well, what is it then? What am I looking at? Okay, what am I looking at as me? See, well, okay, is that infinite? Well, wait a minute, let's see if I can find a boundary. Well, look at that. I can actually expand that boundary. I want to expand that boundary and just play. So it's right here, right now, in this moment. Something started to get loud. Let me shut the door. Some noise just started happening. I don't want to disturb our little sacred space here. So turn it into an exploration. Think about, you've ever heard of these guys that study, an otter or study a butterfly, right? 20 years, right? Every little detail of a butterfly. Do you think they're like trying to find the butterfly? It's this mission to find right? They're so in love with what they're doing, with the process, with this creature, that they're just exploring every aspect of it and being completely blown away and fascinated at every turn. Fall in love with consciousness, right? And you won't have to worry about exploring it, right? If the person you're in love with, you don't have to worry about exploring them, do you? You're like, I'm there. I'm all over that, right? Make it be like that. Fall in love with the process of waking up, of discovering who you are. So it becomes really fun and interesting, and it's not object oriented. It's not driven towards a result. That's what it really means to let go of our attachment to the results and be present, enjoying this moment and see what happens. Sophie, it's gratitude for all your blessings for her. Feeling calmer now. I pray to hold her in being. Yes. Bring her to your heart and keep her there, because she'll never leave there. All of our bodies will eventually, fall back into the emptiness from which they came, the primal energy from which everything manifests. But you are that primal energy, not the manifestation of it. The manifestation, well, it's also you too, but you're the essentials of it. So your grandmother's not going anywhere. And in fact, she's never really been hurt. So the body's not working. She's still there. She's still fine. There's nothing wrong with her. TD Graphics. I started to change and purify my life after I heard your story about the moment you changed yours when on the bridge over the polluted creek. You made simple to have a revelation and manifest. Thank you. Oh, wow. Yeah, it's can't think of that story without just going right here. I mean, that's when my ass was saved, and it was pure grace. I had nothing to do with it. It wasn't my cleverness or my intelligence. Those had all gotten me nowhere. Now they're tools that I can use, and I can be authoritative, and I can be expressive, and I can tell stories. But at the time, it was just a total intervention. So I made it simple to have a revelation and manifest. Thanks. Oh, thank you, TD. Thank you. That means a lot to me. Ikaris. Wow, yes. You just cleared up what I've been thinking consciously and unconsciously. Although I should let you know, I've had experiences of only the thought manifesting itself. Good. Actually, that's all that's ever happening, is the thought is manifest. That's all this is. This is a thought. Your body is not physical and things manifest on it. It is a thought. All of this is happening within the mind. When the mind is seen as it really is, we see that it is the prism through which consciousness manifests. It's kind of like the prism and light goes through it and it breaks up in its essential colors. Consciousness passing through the mind, which is itself consciousness, gets you the infinite range of experience that we call existence, being, and the universe. It's all thought in that sense. Pam says, thanks again, GP. Gotta go. Thank you, Pam. I'm very far behind you guys now. It's only like 3 o'clock in the afternoon here, but that means it's like 7, like 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock at night. Okay. Operations Rise. Oh, I know you know Brent Smith. Yeah, I do. I was curious how you could develop a healthy indifference he speaks of that isn't on the level of sociopathy. Well, I actually did a long time ago a video for YouTube called the Indifference Engine, and it's just a misunderstanding of it. Indifference is cold. I mean, I don't really care. And that's what people try to emulate. When people are trying to get to a point of really being non-attached, they end up becoming cold. They become unfeeling. But it's not that at all. The reality is this beautiful mixture between total engagement and peace at the same time. No attachment to the results, but a complete and total immersion into the experience. You could think of it like in sports, right? You can be in sports and be playing for fun and don't really care about it. Who cares who wins, right? But you know, even now, if I play some game, I'm in it to win. Are you kidding? So I'm in it to win because that's part of the experience. If I'm not in it to win, I'm not really there. So, you know, we'll get together at the holidays. My 2 sons and I, we have a lot of fun together. We really give each other shit, and we'll be there with some other friends and stuff. And we're like throwing down, right? it's like it's ruthless, and people have commented about how much fun we have each other. But I'm still indifferent. It doesn't really matter. I don't really care who wins. But when I'm there, I'm there. You know, the same thing is in a romantic relationship. It's one of the hardest things for spiritual people to grasp is, well, how can I be just totally detached and only seeking spirit and still be in love and hurt when she's not here or he's not here, right? Well, I can tell you for a fact, I do both. I mean, totally peaceful and ache for the one I love because I'm totally in it. I'm totally there. It's not a participation from a distance. It's a total immersion that has simultaneously a recognition that it's all happening within this greater picture of awareness. And that's how you get to the point where you're not going to suffer over it, but you are going to feel the pain and grief of loss. You're not going to be indifferent and not enjoy. You're going to fully feel every last bit of it. And then of course that's not indifference. That's actively, it's an engaged detachment. There's really no word for it because it's 2 things that appear to be opposites, but in fact they're one. And that level is very powerful and very attractive because it's not affected, it's not bullshit, you're not manipulating anybody, you really are present. At the same time, there's a power there because there's not that kind of dependency and neediness that pops up. So yeah, indifference is a tough word, and think of it as a loving engagement that is open to accepting whatever happens. And of course, that means you can lose in the game and you're not devastated. There's no suffering. It's just, I was totally there. Ha Dao. How does one go about dealing with desires, like the sudden desire and craving for food and sex? After all, one is still caught in the trap, for he's desiring not to desire. It's a vicious circle. So yeah, don't try to desire not to desire. Because it's a desire. You can see that way doesn't work. Spirituality tries ways to get around it, of letting go of desires, and desires aren't real and things like that. But none of it works. It's all affected. It's all bullshit, right? The way to not be dominated by it is you let them be there. There's nothing compelling you in a desire. There's just there, there's the desire for food, right? And if you're present with it, other parts of you can join in as well. So it isn't become, you know, a part of you that's, you know, that's wounded and needs emotional, it needs to eat to emotionally please itself, right? That's not there. There's just the desire for food, in which case the body will eat until it doesn't need the food anymore and then stop. And it will be very, very balanced and natural. So you don't have to desire, you don't have to get rid of any desire. In fact, you can't. If you get, I mean, we get rid of desire, life stops pretty quick, right? No more kids, no more animals, nothing. Nothing reproduces after that because it's all desire. And we're all dead in a few days because we have desire to eat. Everything is driven by desire. So we have to basically accommodate it within the big spiritual picture. And we do that through non-resistance. I'm just not resistant to the desire, which means I'm also not dominated by it. Yeah, there's a desire for sex. Everybody has it, right? It motivates a lot of our interests, but there's other desires there too. Yeah, sex is part of it, but also intimacy, closeness, also safety, desire to be a parent. There's altruism and really wanting to benefit others. It's a deeply spiritual aspect to it, which is this desire to be one, right? That gets manifested as the unity of in sex. So the way is always through, not around and not avoiding, right? So you've been taught that there's something inherently wrong about desire and it must be transcended. I'm saying it's to transcend it is to totally accept it for what it is without a story. There's no story about it. It's neither good nor bad, that it's, you know, you need to transcend it. Without that, it's just what it is. And it's just present. And at that moment, you are its master. You're no longer dominated. It's no longer enslaved you. It's simply what you're wearing. This is life and this is what's happening. And, you know, I may get my need met, I may not. And I'm fine. Either way. And at the same time, I'm very devoted to it, right? I don't want to make it sound cavalier or indifferent, like I was just talking about Operation Dries, right? It's not an indifference. Of course, the desires, there's a lot of effort between it. Everybody wants to have sex, right? But not just any old way with any old one. So you see, there's a lot of other stuff around. Just take it all in. Take the whole picture in. And you'll find that the more you let the desires come, the purer they are, the more beautiful they are, and the more easily fulfilled they and naturally fulfilled they are. And when they're fulfilled that way, naturally and effortlessly, they're also satisfying. Oftentimes, when the desire has been usurped and it's really, you know, it's narrow, it's petty, it's not everything fully desired, it's not very satisfying. People find that, you know, sex for sex sake is usually not very satisfying. It can be. Recreation is fine, right? But don't expect it to be the big, you know, your heart opening and all of that, right? But then when the picture gets bigger and there's more, it becomes this beautiful tool for intimacy. So, and it's all the desires there, right? So I hope that helps you, my friend, because it's a big one. It's a big one. Helmut, hello, Helmut. Tips on developing self-love and self-approval. Find out who you are. Moreover, in all situations, as sometimes around different people, the way you see yourself changes. Yes, the way you see yourself changes, but you seeing the you changing doesn't change. Know yourself is the one aware of different people. Yeah, every relationship I'm going to be different. Maybe you weren't here earlier when I was talking about how things flow. I'm not anything in particular, but I will show up and become somebody in a moment based on the circumstances that I'm in. Right? So yeah, it's the beauty of relationship. I discover aspects of myself that would only be there when I find myself in relationship to somebody or something or someplace. Suddenly, a new me emerges. And it's part of the discovery, but it's not a new me. I'm still me, aren't I? I'm watching these new qualities emerge. I'm watching them play. And then when I move somewhere else, I'm watching them dissolve back into myself. That self doesn't need approving for self-love. It is the source of self-love. The love that you're trying, the self that you're trying to get self-love It's the source of the love, isn't it? Otherwise, it couldn't be self-love. It'd be other love. Right? beginning to tire a little bit. Vicky, talking about desires, I sometimes have a desire about something, then I avoid the notion to that desire. Would it be that there is some shadow fear I need to overcome? There's the inner conflict. This is what inner reconciliation is all about. Allow the desire to be there, and then notice the impulse to resist it, or to avoid it, or to move away from it. Now, normally we want the desire, and so this feeling of wanting to avoid it, we see as something we need to get rid of. What I say is, hold both. Let the desire be there. Don't let it be diminished. Don't try to let the notion of avoiding or something reframe it as something that should be avoided. Just let the feeling be there, and let the feeling that wants to avoid it be there. And you step into the middle with no position. You're not taking sides. And you invite them to do this. Say, okay, if you want to avoid this, it means you're trying to protect me from something. You see some danger here. I don't see any danger, but tell me, what's the danger? And so this energy needs to become convinced that there isn't any danger. And it's your job to do that. Your job is to show it that there's no danger. First off, by you not being a danger, by taking sides of the desire and trying to make it go away. That makes you dangerous. The moment you step into the role of the peacemaker, the negotiator, you're no longer dangerous to it. So it can tell you, you know, the last time you did this didn't really work out very well. And I don't want this to happen to you again. Ah, I get it. No, I don't want that to happen again either. But, you know, just avoiding this so that it doesn't happen again makes my life really small. So that doesn't work. That's not a good solution. So can you find a way to help me be safe and at least explore this? I mean, let's stick our toe in. If it really does turn out to be dangerous and it's the same thing, great. I'm with you 100%. We let it go. But if it's not, if it's actually different, well, we want it, don't we? You will get an agreement from this, and you will suddenly find yourself able to move more fully towards those things because you're not in inner conflict about them anymore. And the safety mechanism is doing its job, which is to make sure you stay safe. And so it's going to stay alert, and you keep listening, and it'll keep allowing. And this whole thing will eventually do this, and you'll find the desire will become pure and clearer, and the resistance to it will become less, and you'll find yourself in a position where you are safely beginning to experience the thing that you want to experience. That's pretty much inner reconciliation in a nutshell. TD says, when you helped me meet my inner self, I told my inner self that I'm okay. I got this. Now we are friends. No more need to run. Good. Yeah. There's no more need. There's nothing to run from, right? And eventually you find there's nobody to run. Running is just a bunch of feelings that I want to run away, but there's no I that you can run away from. So there's nothing, yeah, it gets so easy. Thank you. Kesavadas, hello, my friend from India. Hello, I just joined. Great to hear you, GP. Oh, sorry I didn't join earlier, but boy, huge time difference, like middle of the night. Helmet says, thanks for your answer. Thoughts on affirmations? Only make affirmations if you're willing to listen to the inner objections to those inner affirmations. If you make affirmations in an attempt to force your nervous system to believe something it doesn't really believe, or to step into a position it doesn't want to step in position, and you've just created even more conflict. And those aren't going to work. I like to call it teleporting. Just picture the thing you're affirming, picture you have it, but then just open yourself up completely to all the resistance that comes up to it, all the disagreement, all the objections to it, all the parts of you that don't want it. Use affirmations as a means of bringing yourself to an inner reconciliation, to an inner peace, to a place in which you're not in conflict with the affirmations. And of course, that's the inner harmony that's most likely to give manifestation to what you're affirming. But first, you need to find the peace and happiness within. If you don't, nothing can manifest. So an affirmation is simply an invitation. An affirmation is a statement of what it is you want. And you own that. I really want this. But it can't be trying to dominate your inner world to make this conform to what you want. That's a fight. A fight you will lose, by the way, because these inner forces are much more powerful. So if you, okay, this is what I want, and I'm fine with that, but you don't argue for it. You just stand back and you let that desire be there. And then you let all of those resistances and objections and disagreements be there. Say, okay, what is your objection to this? What is it you're trying to keep me safe for? What from? What are you trying to protect me from? Which is always what these are. The objections are always something that's trying to defend your safety. You just do that long enough, and this will happen. Of course, that's what inner reconciliation is. And I have 3 levels of training on and an introductory thing and a whole bunch of stuff about it. That's the whole training for making affirmations more than just this dogged assertion of something that creates inner conflict. Inner conflict will only create more inner conflict, will only manifest more conflict, right? You have to get inner harmony, and then it will manifest external harmony. Vicky says, you nailed it. Thanks. I will play this and go through that process. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. Thank you, Vicky. Kisavada says, thank you. 3:30 a.m. here. Yeah. Thank you for showing up, my friend. Wonderful. I love having people listening to me from India, which is, the motherland of everything that I share with you. Vicky says, now you make sense there with the affirmations. I have had success with some and not with others. Now you know why. Yes. Yeah. You can never succeed at something that the energy on a certain level is objecting to, especially if it believes that it's a threat to safety. You'll never get anywhere because that's the #1 mission of the system, is to stay safe. Right? Now, oftentimes that drive towards safety is misinformed because it's perceiving something as a threat that really isn't a threat, because it's perceiving it through the eyes of a different time when something like that was really a threat. It just got stuck there and it doesn't know that this is different. So the only way it's going to let go of that position and support you in what you want to achieve is for it to realize that this isn't a threat and that it is powerful enough to be able to step into a new territory, discern the threats, protect against them, and at the same time allow a greater freedom to take place. And so now freedom, the safety mechanism, is not fighting you anymore. It's supporting you so that every step of progress is substantial and long-lasting. Helmet. I'd like to throw in an objection. Beliefs do change over time, though. So suppose you do affirmations in the face of the resistance over time. Can that override the inner power's nervous system? Yes, but it's not the most effective way. It's a fight. I mean, you're basically trying to dominate the system, or you're trying to reprogram it. Now, I will do things like EFT. I know a few NLP things in that, which is a reprogramming of that system. What I'm suggesting is much more fundamental and gets much more to the point, and is much more kind and harmonious. It's much more loving. It's an inner honoring rather than just, this is a machine, I got to reprogram. It's much more sensitive to it. And so this actually works faster than trying to simply, hold on to your affirmation and make things conform to it. They might eventually, but they might not. Right? It may look that way for a little, and then you'll run into some other kind of obstacle. If you really get to the root of it, and it releases its need to protect you from a particular thing, that changes forever, and nothing from that point on will trigger it. Helmut says, "Ah, I get it. Always thanks for your time." Great, great, yeah, yeah. You see, it's a subtle difference, but this other, well, actually, in reconciliation actually works faster because the system itself makes the transformation, so you don't have to force into anything, and it wants to be free. You know, the natural energy within us is to flow freely. And so the defensive posture is not a natural one for it. It wants to move, right? But it cannot abandon its job. So the moment it realizes it doesn't have to do the job, it goes, damn, this is good. And it throws it out. It's done. Good. I'm done. I don't have to do that anymore. Phew. And then it just kind of monitors, just goes kind of back to this very passive place, is just monitoring for potential danger, which you can never stop it from doing. That's its job. And we wouldn't want it to, right? Other son, is there any difference between a dream memory and a memory from physical reality? No. So one we believe was a physical reality and one we believe is a dream. When you're in the dream, it all seems like a physical reality. When you're in the waking dream, it seems like a physical reality. There's actually no difference between the two. Maybe the only difference is this is consistent. I mean, if you fell asleep at night and every time you fell asleep at night, the dream picked up where it left off, went through everything neat and tight with this nice little continuity, and then you woke up in the morning and this one picked up, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. The only difference is this one seems to have continuity and that one doesn't. That's it. But in terms of the actual substance, they're both dreams. They're made of exactly the same thing, which is consciousness. Everything's made out of consciousness. Everything is the experience of consciousness. There's nothing but consciousness. Consciousness is all there is. It's who's hearing my words. It's what the words are made of. It's what all experience is made of. So, whew. Okay, these last two. Okay, please, no more questions. It's, whoa, 3:25. Holy cow, 2.5 hours. Okay, no more questions. With your EFT, how many can one practice in order to reconcile? How many can one practice? Not sure what that is, Vicky. How many what can one practice? How many different things? How many different ways of doing EFT? Really have to do some of the EFT and inner reconciliation to show how I do it, because I use it very specifically. And it's really just to help the energy system let go of its need to protect against a certain thing. Sometimes just bringing it to reconciliation isn't enough. It needs the additional element of touch to bring it to a different level of safety that allows it to release its grip. That's what it is. Sessions. How many sessions can one practice in order to reconcile? However many it takes. I mean, I cured one guy of chronic insomnia in 15 seconds. There's others that have taken, a couple of months to work through, and deep transformation does take some time. I have students who've been with me for years, and it's growing and expanding and the like. And, they've been marked with these moments of great opening and awakening. So there's no real rule for it. It's not like you sign up for 7 sessions and that's all it's going to take. It's nothing like that. There's always an effect immediately, and it will grow and compound. And once you have reached, however small a step forward it might be, there's no backward stepping on it. That's what's beautiful. So, why the waking up dream seems continuous? Because that's what it is. There's no reason for it whatsoever. That's just the way it is. I suppose if you look closely, it's because in this dream, we have a consistent sense of identity. The I am, the person I believe myself to be, remains constant, even though it does actually go in and out. You're not always aware of yourself. It's kind of coming and going. It constantly comes back. But you can even see that same consistency in the dream. You always believe yourself to be, even though the form you take is different and the experiences you have are different. The sense of being yourself remains the same. And of course, in the waking dream and the sleeping dream, that sense of being myself is the key. When that becomes recognized that is the awareness and not the person in the dream or in the waking dream, you're there. That's it. That's all there is to this. Helmut says, so to the other son's question, does the past memories that literally characterize our identity exist anywhere whatsoever? Nope, they don't. They only exist as a thought. That's why when Buddha's most hard to understand statements, people just kind of their head at, it neither exists nor doesn't exist. The self we believe ourselves to be, the person we believe ourselves to be, does not exist as a real entity. It only exists as a thought. As a thought, it seems to have reality and substance and power and energy to it, right? As a thought, it has some substance. Like I can talk about Mickey Mouse, right? Or unicorns, right? We all know what we're talking about, even though it doesn't exist. So it exists, but it doesn't exist. You know, if I look up at the sky and I see a cloud going by and I see a woman's face in the cloud, or I see or I see a mountain range, or I see, you know, some people see Christ or God coming out of the sky, right? It's not there, right? But I see it. So it does exist as a thought. When we recognize that it's only a thought, we aren't identified with it. Now we can let it play. And I can even become it. I can play the role and but I can also step out of the role. I don't no longer believe that this thought I'm having is a real thing, right? So it doesn't actually exist as an entity anywhere. It is not a thing. It is a projection of the mind and nothing else. The entity is and always is you. You are the entity, and you literally project your beingness on these ideas, and then they seem to exist independently of you, and they don't. It's the snake in the rope, right? You need to see the rope as the rope. You need to see yourself as consciousness. Then whatever you are conscious of simply becomes manifest consciousness and not identity. Whew. Vicky says, namaste. Thanks for the time and the words of wisdom. Kasavadas says, thanks. Okay, that's it. 2.5 hours. Wow, I didn't realize it just kept going. Oh my goodness. Thank you all. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for joining me on Satsang. Please tell others about it. Invite people to join in. The more the merrier. This is, to me, this is the most important exploration in the human kingdom. What we're doing right here now, exploring these things with each other, looking for ourselves, really seeing. These are without a doubt the most important things the human beings can be doing right now. This is what matters. Thank you all. I love you all. Namaste.